First of all, I want to thank the organization. It's fantastic, and it's nice to be here. Vincent gave me a big responsibility, but I'm going to go through 4 stories. First of all, I have to say something about me. I'm an industrial designer, born and raised in Milan, and I studied industrial design, and then I moved on my own after working for Design Continuum, which is a big consultancy, working on cameras, computers, for big brands. I moved on my own to work on furniture and lights, mainly. So these 4 stories are meant to understand a bit of the designer approach, the way, let's say, our point of view. Let's start with the dreams, which are fundamental. So let's start with the dream. Actually, to talk about this project, I will start from a nightmare, which is picking a nice diving board on the market. Diving boards are, let's say, awful slabs of glass fiber at the moment, usually bolted to the ground and sometimes with big springs. So the project was born thanks to a shared dream. The company is a brand new company called Molono, which was founded for this reason. The owner of the company decided he wanted to have to produce the diving board, the nicest diving board possibly. And so I told him he needed a dream to make this product become an instant classic, something that people would dream about. And based on that dream, we could work. So I proposed him 10 stories, and one of it was this, the classical Côte d'Azur dream with the jet set like Brigitte Bardot and that kind of style. And of course, the main tool of pleasure was the Riva, probably the nicest Aquarama, an Ariston. This is a smaller one, but it's nice anyway, even if it's small. So this dream, actually, it was one of my dreams. So I all of a sudden, I had the chance to work on one of my dreams. And the first thing I did, I was inviting him to visit the company, and he was like, fantastic. So I would say that from that moment on, when the dream was shared, it was somehow easy to come up with something nice. The complexity of the project was, I wanted the complexity of the project to be hidden inside and to be covered with this real wood veneer, but inside there's a lot of carbon fiber, and it's very important where it is placed and how. So it took quite a long time. I took care of everything for the brand, even the logo. And so he seems to be very happy now. He probably realized his dream. Now we are with the lawyers to talk about when it breaks and how old and rich is the guy who broke it. But that's it. That's the story. The second story is about inspiration. Once again, before talking about the inspiration, I will talk about frustration. I recently moved to, I forgot to tell you, I recently moved to Miami following business. And one of the things you easily meet in Miami is a hot tub. And I have to say that it was quite frustrating to use this sturdy, oversized, and hyper-designed tool, full of knobs and slippery. And I honestly think that each one of these pits, first of all, you have to find the pits because the bubbles are everywhere, so you don't see where you're sitting. So you can guess by the pits, but it's easy to sit somewhere else in between. And I guess this is fantastic. It's perfectly designed on the designer's ass. but probably everybody else is not fitting the right way. So once again, I went back to a little bit step backwards to find inspiration. This is the classical mood board that any designer would show you, and it's very often underestimated. Sometimes it's a work you do, you had the idea, it's brilliant, it works, and then you have to go to the client and you build up something because they like mood boards. Some other times it's really a starting point. And in this case, I was really looking for designing an experience, like letting those who approach the tab forget about any function, button, just get in and then be guided by the sensations to design an experience. And I ended up getting inspired by it's banal, the classical Nautilus shell, but it helped me a lot through the process. What I created is a sort of a bench that progressively lets you lean and relax, and hopefully it lets you fall asleep when you reach the lounge. And this also helps a lot with ergonomic, because almost anybody can find a comfortable seat. And then there's a study with the people from Jacuzzi to let this path, wellness path, be like progressive in terms of massage. The other way around, it was also useful for the drainage. One of the nightmares of those who take care of these tubs is drying them, because they are full of pits that they end up to be some ponds here and there. And in this case, there's a slight slope that let water run out, and so you don't have to use any sponge. And this was something that was really welcome. So here's the top view. Another thing that we worked on was the safety, also the sensation you have. We had to drop that handle. It was a 360 handle. I really care for that. Sometimes you get out of the tab from any side, but we had to drop it for technical reasons and cost. Anyway, the sensation when you get in is really important to feel safe to step in. Okay, thank you. So that's a classical step, and we somehow reinvented the step to make it work also for kids. Kids always want to get in, and it's very dangerous, of course. And it also helps to feed the south and the north, let's say. I call this the Swedish guy. So then there's a lot of technology inside that I really wanted to be silent and invisible to the end user. So we've been working hard on the interface. The interface is one button with one switch, let's say, light, bubbles, and all the programming is hidden for the technical guys who can, let's say, tune it up. This is also the first tab to integrate the sand filter, so there's a lot of effort in terms of sustainability too. So here's the product, and hopefully the experience. This should represent the experience, so a couple of martinis. So let's go to the third story, which is about trust. Trust, this is you might recognize the Pantone chair. This chair took 10 years to go from the idea to the product. So the dream of the designer was to make a nicely looking, but extremely stiff also chair, to make it look like effortless. And this took 10 years of the process was very complex. So here we have the classical, I find this image fantastic, it's emblematic. You have the R&D who's wondering if he should say, yes, let's go on with this nightmare. Then we have Rolf Feldman, I think it's the right pronunciation, the boss of Vitra, who made many dreams come true. Then we have the guy who's hoping. You see his face is looking at the technical guy. And that's Werner Panton. Somebody say he's the inventor of the 60s, which is an era of dreams, by the way. And then the model maker who just cares to get on with the work, and maybe is a little bit pissed off because it's 10 years he's working on this prototype. So, I'm going to switch to a project of mine to tell you my experience. My experience in terms of trust. At that period, I didn't have the let's say, self-confidence to go to a company with such a complex mold, because this chair represents it. To produce it, you really need a very complex mold. So this drawing was stuck there for a month. And then the Triennale, which is our, let's say, MoMA here in Milano, dedicated to me an exhibition of 2 months. That was an incredible news for me. And I had 200 square meters. So I had to collect all the information for the exhibition. And then I had 17 days, and I decided to do a crazy thing, to make that sketch come true. 17 days, of course, the first thing I did was the countdown backwards, was finding the guy. I'm always looking for the best guys for any process. And in this case, I found the guy who was making carbon fiber for Prada sailing boats, the fastest boats for America's Cup and Ferrari. I had the chance to get in touch with him. And he told me he needed 2 weeks. So I had 2 days. But that didn't stop me from doing it. I had a bit of experience with these strange tools like the salmon fish knife, which reduces a lot the friction, and the chainsaw. So I had the CAD model. I could have done a CAD milling, of course, but I wanted to test it because I cannot send those nice things that are unusable. So in 12 hours plus 12 hours, I did the shape, and then I ran to the guy who made the carbon. So let's say I trusted in his idea. I didn't even think about it. I was really following my instinct. And it ended up to be a good investment because it became part of the permanent collection of the Italian design, and it went on auction in Brussels. The last story is about waste. Some incredible stories you can tell incredible stories around waste. I'm going to tell you a story, which is the story of the Vespa. A few people know that Vespa was designed by an engineer called, you guys know. You work with Piaggio. So I have to be sharp on the information. So. Corradino d'Ascanio was an engineer, and he invented the modern helicopter, the rotor, which is an incredibly complex thing that lets it moves in many directions. It's incredible. So he created that thing, but at the time it was working for a war for airplanes at Piaggio. At the end of the war, he was asked to do something with these wastes, which were metal sheets, huge presses, fantastic, probably the highest quality presses at the time, and even wheels. If you ever rode an old Vespa and you try to brake with a front brake, you probably noticed that it was diving, if you can say that, and many people fell because of this. But the front wheel was, can you say, motivated? He took the front wheel of the planes, which is designed to absorb shocks in that way. And so he motorized Italy using the wastes of war. All this story is to talk about this project, which is around the corner. It's a project launched by Dutch guy, Danish guy, Niklas Jacob. He had the idea of provocating IKEA, calling 18 designers to ironically find solutions for IKEA. So IKEA is a company, of course, is one of the most ecological companies. They've been working hard, but they have what I call a serial waste. How many of these do you have? Okay, so 5 each. I think 10 or so. Anyway, I started from there. So the Allen key. I thought that maybe the only waste of the box could be the main part of the product. So what you have to do is just use it, tight the Allen screw, and then leave it there to have a coat hanger. And that's it. Thank you. Please visit the exhibition.